So it's very clear to say that in today's age, we are dealing with a very different Intel and AMD. See, at least on the CPU side. See, the graphics card side, that's a whole different parade on its own, and we're not really going to touch on that a whole lot in here. AMD and NVIDIA can fight that one out. But the topic of the conversation today is the changes in the CPU landscape and pricing, and, well, the competition levels may shift slightly by the time the Ryzen 3000 series launches if the report from Digitimes proves to be accurate. What they're reporting over at Digitimes is that Intel is planning up to a 15% price cut on their Core series on their mainstream desktops to make them a bit more competitive. And if you look back through history, we really haven't seen a whole lot in the terms of price cuts coming from Intel. Typically, what they launch at is what they exist at throughout their lifespan, and they may, well, you may see a discount with a bundle, you may see something get bundled in with it, but you very rarely ever saw a price cut, even when new processors come along. So even from the 3770 to the 4770, the 3770s really didn't shift in pricing, and even going forward from the 6700, 7700K, when the 7700K was replaced by the 8700K, you didn't see price cuts then. They simply sold through, and that was it. And if they didn't sell, they just sat on a shelf until somebody decided they needed it for an older platform, and then they bought it at that premium price. But what we're seeing here now is a bit different level of competition from AMD pushing back on Intel's desktop market share. And Intel really doesn't want to give up a whole lot, even though they pretty much own the desktop space. Even still, with Ryzen been out for a couple of years, Ryzen is taking back a bit of that market share. They're getting their own, and that's great for them, and it's great for everyone else, because what we're seeing is this competitive nature kind of kick up. So the 15% price cut to Intel processors would shift the competitive landscape just a little bit. So what we're going to look at here is we're going to look at current pricing for 4 SKUs on Intel's chips over on Newegg as of this morning whenever I recorded the video, and we applied a 15% price reduction. Now I know Intel, or the reporting rather, says up to a 15%, and it could be anywhere from 1% to 15%. So what we're going to do for simplicity's sake is look at what happens if they cut it by 15%. So it's a bit of a what-if scenario when it comes to these pricing, so keep that in mind as we move forward. So you take the i5-9400F for $160 US, and if you add, or remove rather, a 15% price cut, you move it down to $140. And what that does is that now shifts it from just above a Ryzen 3 3400G to just under it. So for those looking for a gaming CPU in that price range, it may shift your focus a little bit, because the 3400G may have a great iGPU and the 9400F does not have an iGPU. One of these is going to be a bit better tailored towards games or pure gaming with the dedicated graphics card than the other. It may shift some focus of a potential buyer. Moving things up to the 9600K, so the i5 9600K, 6 cores, unlocked, overclockable, all that jazz, right now is $229. So $229.99. 15% price cut would remove it all the way down to $199.99, putting it in direct competition with the 3600, so the Ryzen 5 3600 6-core 12-thread part, rather than being up against the 3600X. And that definitely could change the marketing scheme a little bit on that one. But moving up to the i7 9700K, right now it is $409.99. But if you take a 15% price cut, you're moving it down to $356.99, putting it pretty much in line with the 3700X. That's about $20, $30 more than the 3700X, but it shifts it away from the 3800X down to the 3700X for most people. So if you're looking at a $330 part and there's $350, now you're starting to weigh your options a little bit different. And moving things up to an i9 9900K is probably the biggest impact, because it's your biggest starting point. Right now it's $499 or $494.99. It's ranged from $530 at launch down to $490, somewhere in between. But at this current price, with 15% removed, you're looking at $429.99, putting it neck and neck, well, maybe ears and neck, with the 3800X. So the Ryzen 7 3800X is a bit more competitive with the 9900K at this point. So you've shifted one set of numbers down to compete with a different level of marketing than one company. So AMD's comparing their Ryzen 9 3900X to the 9900K, whereas now if these price cuts go into effect, the 9900K would be more comparable to a 3800X in pricing. So especially when you take in, if you're buying a new platform and you're taking in the X570 pricing versus Z370, Z390 pricing, things are getting a lot muddier and a lot less clear cut for those looking for value or those looking for performance. So this is the result of good competition, rather than just driving prices up in like the graphics card scene to increase those margins. And well, I mean, there are companies that are allowed to make money. There's nothing wrong with that, but somebody's got to pay for it, and that'll be the end user, unfortunately. However, on the CPU side, things are getting a bit dirty. Some mud's starting to sling, and ultimately prices are coming down, which is great for those looking to upgrade. So that's kind of where we're going to leave it today. Of course, the pricing that we have here is proposed pricing if they went with a full 15% price cut. So keep that in mind again. Just wanted to reiterate that for those who may have missed that earlier. Love to hear your thoughts on these price cuts down below. Is this going to shift your intention of upgrading from one vendor to another? I'm interested to hear what that does for your thoughts. This has been mine. I'm happy to see price cuts either way. It's been Keith with WCCF Tech TV. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so that we don't miss you and the next one.